Hey friends, Justin here, and welcome to episode 2 of the Long Story Short podcast, where this week we're going to talk about a film that I often describe as my favorite film of all time, and that is 2020's Nomadland. Um, Within 30 or 40 seconds of this film coming on, I can remember going to the movie theater to see it. I could feel the emotion rising up in me. I don't think I have ever related to a film at the time of my life where it was so appropriate as Nomadland. It was directed by Chloe Zhao, who is an independent director who did a Native American Western a few years ago called Songs My Brother Taught Me, which is also an amazing film. It stars Frances McDormand, who I'm just going to take a moment to say I think is one of the seminal actresses of our generation. When you think about Three Billboards, when you think about the recent Macbeth, she was in Almost Famous years ago. She really has an unparalleled range and an ability to disappear into characters. And I honestly cannot think of another actress on her level. But Nomadland is a film about forgotten people. People who often come up in labor statistics and the working class. And it's really, really interesting, because I think Hollywood often shines a light on the superhero, the exceptional person, the loudest guy in the room. And this film is such a great reminder that this country is filled with silent heroes, people who are not seeking attention, but just seeking a way to survive and a quiet corner of this country to exist in. This film follows Frances McDormand. She is kind of a victim of the times. She's a victim of the economics of the era. She's recently lost her home and her husband. I think he's passed away. And the factory that she works at is closing its doors. And due to a combination of her age and skill set, nobody wants to hire her. She's given, her blood, sweat, and tears to this country. And people are closing the door in her face. Lines we've all heard. Don't you think you're overqualified for this? Or wouldn't you want to do something else? And she's gotten dressed and put her clothes on to try to take care of herself, to feed herself, to keep shelter over her head, and is constantly denied. I relate to that so much. After my parents died, home became a forward-thinking concept and not something that was behind me. And so to see a film about how a woman navigates such uncertainty was really, really thrilling to me. She leaves Nevada, northern Nevada, where, there really is no work, for parts south. She heads down to Arizona to try to find work and try to find community, and is told about a community of people out in the desert with similar aspirations that are looking for community and like-mindedness. And she heads there, and her life is changed forever, where, strangers become her existence. They become her family. And it's really touching. These people are kind of done with traditional relationships. And even when they say goodbye to each other, it is, I'll see you down the road. They've done away with goodbyes and the trauma and the hurt that sometimes comes with that kind of separation. These are folks that have been there and done that, with exciting stories. What I loved about it is that these were often people, especially when you hear the stories in the film, where they had been through incredible abuse, incredible loss, and incredible trauma, but they were choosing to transform their stories into something exciting. Yes, I had to leave where I was from, but I get to travel the northwest of the United States up to Alaska. I get to see the things that were thoughts in my head and were dreams. And this trauma has become the catalyst for me to experience all of those things. And we all do, but I relate to that on so many levels. After my parents passed away, for me, home became a forward-thinking concept and not something I could look back at so fondly. I didn't grow up with a supportive family, and so for many years, especially in my early to mid-20s, I felt like a traveler. I felt like somebody that was dealing with enormous grief. And there were a lot of times where I had breakdowns and fallouts with people, and it was really interesting to see this film, to see that there are a whole community of people that are experiencing the same kinds of things that we are and how they navigate it. I didn't have any, when you lose people at a young age, there's no guidebook about how to mourn and how to celebrate the people that are still alive. And I had a really, really tough time when my mother passed away in 2009. And when I saw this film and saw how people navigated their own grief and how they transformed it into the catalyst for travel and to be humanistic to one another and to find community in places that they probably would not have otherwise, was just amazing to me. These are folks that hadn't given up. They hadn't crawled into a ball and decided to die. They were going to make the best of whatever time that they had left by traveling, by being kind to one another, by finding community, and by being a light in different places for other people where, there might not have been one. And so for me to see that there were yet things in this life to look forward to, ways that I could change my perspective, ways that I could gamify an adventure, make an adventure out of what was left of my life. I think that was the start of me really, really coming out of or starting to lose some of my depression and taking on a chapter 2, I relate to people who don't lay down and die. I'm often trying something new on YouTube. I'm often trying something new at work, at home, with my friends. Let's do a challenge. Let's do this. And I recognize that what those things are hope, And I hope that, especially during this holiday season, that each and every one of us can find those things that we can cling on to, that we can call hope. You may not have a family to go to open presents and to do that traditional corporate holiday stuff, but there are still things that you can find to be grateful for. There are still things that we can plan for in 2024 to be excited about. And that's really a great thing. Have any of you watched Nomadland? I mean, it's a quiet film. You often hear the wind blowing in the desert through the foliage. But there was not a moment in that film that felt lost or overdone to me. It's really, in my opinion, a perfect film. I think often, because Chloe Zhao is a Chinese-American filmmaker, I think often folks that are, let's say, on the outside looking into American culture can often appreciate its quiet nature and the value of its quiet nature. more so than I think a lot of American directors can. I think Chloe was able to capture such nuance and such subtlety um, that I haven't seen anything like it. I really, really haven't. There are great American directors like Martin Scorsese and on and on and on. I think they are more interested in one-upping their productions and showing innovation versus really dialing in and looking at the small parts of the American experience. And so I am often thrilled when Italian, Chinese, South American filmmakers tackle Westerns and tell our stories, because they often nail it. I mean, if Chloe has not been a traveler, which, I don't know her backstory, she certainly sat with a lot of folks in this country that have, been in transition, got to know their cadence, got to know what's important to folks when they're post-family on the other side of community, and was able to articulate it in just beautiful and heartbreaking ways, But what wasn't lost on me was the excitement that these people had for life. They were looking forward to their next chapters, their trips that they had coming up, the communities that they were going to go visit. And so what life had taken away from them, they had been given also so much, and that is a future. One of the characters only had months left to live, but she was going to get back to a place. She was going to go to a place that she had always wanted to get to. A place that I think she had a good experience when she was young, and wanted to go and stand there and experience it again before she died. These are things that people that have a lot of community, that have a lot of family, they never fulfill those dreams. They never go stand on the Great Wall of China, or go to Alaska, or do this or do that. And that's because there's so many distractions. There's so many things saying, oh, that's silly, do it next year, you've got time, we've got all these other things going on. But when life removes those barriers from you, you're often able to reach those goals and get to those paradisical places and, check them off of your bucket list. And so I was really excited about that. It gave me a way of life to look forward to. When you're living in transition, it doesn't feel poetic. You often feel lost, and it's hard to know who to trust and who not to. But the film gave me a chapter of my life to look forward to. And as a matter of fact, what it did is it showed me how beautiful and how artistic the transition period was. When I was driving on the 10 freeway, through the desert, and saw all of the beautiful landscape of this country. My back seat was full of luggage, my seat, it got CDs in the car. That's life. And that was one of the most thrilling times of my life, the unknowns between two cities, leaving one for a better life, And I sang country music and folk music in the car, and drove and cried and prayed, and things weren't perfect when I got to California, to my next city. But I was living, and I will tell you guys that traveling period of my life, it was the time of my life. And a lot of times when I'm nostalgic, when I'm talking about going back and moving here, it's often out of nostalgia for earlier times in my life when I was more uncertain and taking chances and having a lot of fun. And so even things that seem bleak and seem dark today, you will look back fondly on in a few years and realize that they were truly, truly formative times of your life. So I am grateful because of this film. It helped me to appreciate community here on YouTube. You know, those folks that, that comment, that support, that drive you and push you to keep putting out content. It doesn't matter if one or two people watch your stuff. What keeps me going a lot of times are the one or two people that do watch and say, I enjoyed, or keep going. And I will. So Nomadland was a game changer for me. Again, I was never the same after I left the theater that night. Went home and slept good and felt good about myself and my story for the first time in a long time. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of summary or synopsis of Nomadland through the lens of my own story and why I appreciated it so much. And give this video a like, a comment if you will. Let me know some films that were formative to you in your life that we can talk about. And in the spirit of the film, I won't say goodbye, but until our next video, I'll see you guys down the road. Cheers.